On October 31, 1984, the Prime Minister of India stepped out of her residence and into her own garden. She was walking toward a scheduled interview, but she never arrived. Waiting for her were the very men tasked with keeping her alive. Indira Gandhi had led the nation through wars and domestic crises for nearly 2 decades. Known as India's Iron Lady, she was defined by an unyielding approach to political opposition. But the events of that morning were set in motion 400 kilometers to the north, in Punjab. By the early 1980s, a movement demanding an independent Sikh state, known as Khalistan, had led to a wave of regional instability and daily violence. Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale led the most militant wing of this movement. He and his followers, seen here carrying rifles on a rooftop, took the extraordinary step of fortifying the Golden Temple complex, the holiest site in the Sikh religion. By turning the temple into a military base, the militants forced the Indian government into a high-stakes choice: allow a sovereign threat to grow within its borders, or violate the sanctity of its most sensitive religious site to remove it. Before the conflict, the Golden Temple, or Harmandir Sahib, was a sanctuary of absolute quiet. Its gold-leafed walls and reflecting pool represented a site where any military intrusion was considered a profound violation by the Sikh community. In June 1984, Indira Gandhi concluded that political negotiations could not clear the complex. She authorized Operation Blue Star. The National Army was mobilized to enter Amritsar and remove the militants by force. The result was a multi-day urban battle within the temple grounds. Militants fought from fortified positions, leading the army to deploy infantry, helicopters, and combat tanks directly into the complex to break the resistance. The army eventually secured the site, and Bhindranwale was killed. However, the victory left the Akal Takht, the seat of Sikh earthly authority, in ruins, its facade pocked with artillery and bullet holes. The physical damage to the temple triggered an immediate wave of anger. Across India and the world, many Sikhs viewed the military operation as a direct assault on their religious identity, rather than a targeted counterinsurgency. While the state succeeded in destroying a specific militant stronghold, the use of heavy military force inside a sacred space had a different effect. It decentralized the threat, turning a regional political crisis into a widespread desire for vengeance. Following the operation, intelligence agencies warned the Prime Minister of a credible threat to her life. They recommended removing all Sikh personnel from her personal security detail to prevent a potential retaliation from within her own guard. Gandhi refused the recommendation. She argued that a secular government could not discriminate against its own soldiers based on their faith, believing that purging her guards would only deepen the national divide. Among her most trusted protectors were Beant Singh and Satwant Singh. But while they continued their daily duties, both men were quietly radicalized by the images of the damaged Golden Temple, viewing the assassination of the Prime Minister as a religious obligation. This map of One Seftarjung Road shows the Prime Minister's daily routine. Every morning she walked from her private residence to her office. On October 31st, she followed this path as usual, approaching a wicket gate, a narrow bottleneck where her guards waited. As she reached the gate, Beant Singh drew a .38 caliber revolver and fired. Satwant Singh followed with a submachine gun, emptying his weapon. Today, a memorial pathway covered in crystal glass marks the exact spot where she fell. The decision to use the National Army against a religious site had converted Gandhi's own protectors into enemies. Even the most secure perimeter fails when the state's actions transform its guards into its primary threat. With the Prime Minister dead, the government faced a sudden power vacuum. To project stability, the Congress Party quickly swore in her son, Rajiv Gandhi, as the next Prime Minister. The state organized a massive military funeral. Millions watched as a disciplined funeral procession marched down the wide avenues of New Delhi, projecting an image of order and national strength. But just blocks away, that order was collapsing. In the days following the assassination, organized mobs targeted Sikh neighborhoods across the capital. Civilians were forced to flee as their homes and businesses were set on fire. The resulting violence killed thousands of Sikhs. The state's law and order apparatus largely failed to intervene, leaving the capital's streets covered in debris and smoldering ruins for days. The violence of 1984 alienated millions of voters and weakened the central government's authority. In the following decade, The political landscape shifted as regional parties gained strength, eventually ending 40 years of single-party dominance and beginning a new era of coalition politics. The events of 1984 suggest that a state's military solution to an ideological threat can neutralize a specific target, but it often triggers a chain reaction. When force is applied to a sacred space, it can ignite a level of violence that no security force is equipped to contain.